Alma of the Haaretz asks Yirmiyahu, Al she'ozvam es Torasi. They were Ozev the Torah. The door of the Bayis Rishon was Ozev es the Torah. They left the Torah. Why? What makes, I want everybody to think as we go forward, what makes someone be Ozev the Torah, to leave the Torah, Chalila, the Heilige, delicious Torah? Why? Okay, introduction. Before Shavuos, there's nothing better to be involved in than Kinyanei Torah. We did this a few years ago. I think it was maybe 3 years ago. I'm not sure. We didn't get through many of them, and we're definitely going to be at a. We might have some review and going over what we did already, but we're definitely starting at a whole different point. So, although the general topic of Kinyanei Torah is one that we did cover partially, but for sure, Kinyanei Torah is a lifetime work, and there are 48 of them, and we got through maybe 12 or 15 or something, I don't remember. So it's going to be something totally different also. So anybody who has that in their head, why are we doing that? No, no. Generally, I want to give a few akdamas, and then we're going to jump in. Generally, what I noticed when I studied the Kinyanei Torah many years ago, maybe already 20, 30 years ago, was that there are two general mahalchim that mafarshim. I had a sefer called, I think, Kinyan Torah or something, which gave a sikum of summary of many, many mafarshim. And that's what started me off in this. It's not a book you see so much today. I don't think I have it anymore. But I noted at some point that there are two general ways that Kinyanei Torah work. This is important. Just once you understand the sugya, then you'll know where different things fit in. One way is practical. Through this, you will learn more, learn better. It means it's like utilitarian, functional. Talmud. Talmud is the first Kinyanei Torah. The first Kinyanei Torah is learn. Everybody understands. Without learning and learning a lot, you won't get any Torah. Shmias Ozen. You have to listen. If you don't listen, you're going to miss what your Rebbe said. If you don't listen, you're going to miss a word of the shmuz. If you don't listen, you're going to miss a word of the shir. If you don't listen, you're going to miss a word of the psak. You're not going to understand why the psak is the way it is. So if you don't listen, well, you're not learning. But besides that, there's something called more in its seguli way, totally different. It's not utilitarian in terms of the practical. Explain it to a non-Jew, they would also understand it, applicable to other wisdoms, perhaps also. It's seguli, it's a segula. The Torah, I'll say generally the way the Maharal speaks about it, the Torah is a davar me'aleinu. It's a very, very high thing. And for no one should ever think, chas v'shalom, that it's just simple to understand the Torah, or the Torah is just a question of methodology. Of course, my yeshiva and my way in learning, and before my yeshiva, Shapell's, is all about methodology. But no one should ever think that just Kinyan Torah just through methodology. There's no methodology to get the Torah ultimately. Torah is above us. The Heilige Kutzker said, why is it on your heart? Put it in your heart. He said, no, you can't put Divrei Torah straight in your heart. You put the Torah on the heart, and once in a while the heart opens up and some Divrei Torah falls in. Torah is above us. Torah is the shorish of everything. Torah is above everything. Torah is beyond everything. You can't just be zocha to the Torah. So you have to do things. You have to align yourself to be a Torah mensch, and the more tahara you have, the more simcha you have, the more all these things you have. Now the Torah is shaykh to you, and therefore you somehow attach yourself to this infinite body. Okay, so but the fact, and let's go back though, the fact that some of the Kinyanei Torah work that way doesn't mean that some of them work that way. And different Mefarshim will learn that it's clear when you look at the Mefarshim well that different learn this way and different learn that way. And you can't have one, the Kinyanei Torah, which could have both explanations could be there, right? There's just like Divrei Torah. There's simple ways to understand concepts, to understand what's going on between Yosef and Yehuda, and there are deeper ways to go on. Yosef and Yehuda, there's a person called Yosef, there's a person called Yehuda, and Yehuda came to Yosef, and V'yigash Shalav Yehuda. That's one level. Another level is it's Mashiach ben Yosef, Mashiach ben David. What do you mean? Yeah, because that's also represented there. And another thing, it's a midah. Yosef is the Panemius, and Yehuda is the this, and Yosef is the Kol, right? It's called Baruch Hashem Divrei Torah Misparish, the beauty of Torah, and the Galus of Torah, and the Nitzchus Torah is that how many different ways we can explain things in legitimate ways, not made up. Those who appreciate each mahalach, each level of the parties, can feel the truth in each thing that is going on. So too in Kinyanei Torah. So there's two. There's utilitarian Kinyanei Torah, and there's the schooly Kinyanei Torah that through doing this way, that aligns me to be a person who can learn Torah better because I do X, Y, Z. And there's the skuli that Torah is something which is so above me. To be shaykh to it, I have to be shaykh to certain midas, certain ways, certain thinking, certain attitudes, and that's how I can maybe come to be zocheh to Torah. Okay, so Baruch Hashem. I want to talk back to Avodas Torah. So I'm so excited to share this and why in the world? Because when I was misbonin, and this is something we never said before, I don't believe that I said it before. I'm not against repeating what I said the last time around at all, but you know, uh, but I'm certainly excited to look at things fresh, and that's why topics you have to be learning. All these topics. I see one thing, Tzvi I could almost look at, I could read Tzvi Meyer's Contrasim, and he always says, it's a life's work. It says about almost everything he speaks about. He doesn't make it up. It's based on what he's read from Tzaddikim, the hundreds of books that he has. It's a life's work. Everything's a life's work. That is a life's work. The topics we deal with are life's work. Baruch Hashem, and we have a deep Torah, and it's a life Torah. So it's a life Torah. Kinyanei HaTorah is a life thing. So I was thinking like this, again in terms of an introduction. There's an unbelievable Shevet Musar. Shevet Musar is a sefer I think was written in Turkey, and you should know that Turkey itself was incredible Irvein B'Yisrael. Turkey, they're Turkish Jews. I know we have a Ger Tzedek in our yeshiva who goes to sometimes to Turkish minyan, but I haven't heard of many Turkish minyanim. We talk about Moroccan minyanim, Ashkenazic minyan, Hasidic. Turkey was an Irvein. Turkey wasn't just more of an Irvein. Istanbul was one of the main places there was tremendous Chacham there, tremendous Gedolim there. So I think the Shevet Musar was from Istanbul or one of Constantine, those areas, Salonikia, and but I believe so. In a very chashuv sefer called Shevet Musar, and I haven't learned much of the sefer, but I'm sure this is one of the most chashuv prakim in the sefer. And I thank Rav Yitzchak Horowitz Shlita, who is the Rav in my community now, moving to Lakewood Zocha to a matana. This great Rav was going there to take on a big kehillah, and he showed me this, and it's absolutely incredible. And he says something which is mind-boggling, really. And I'm going to give some of it today, and I'll give some of it next week also, because it's so chashuv. I want everybody to hear it in two different accounts. But he says that what was the yesod al ma'avdaretz al she'ozim Torah? Why did they leave the Torah? I'm telling you, if you're not aware of this, I could leave everybody and tell them to come up with 10 reasons, and I don't think anybody would think this reason. You know why they're Oz of the Torah? Because they did not appreciate that even their comparatively small chelik in Torah is so important. I only learn Mikra. I don't even learn Mishnah. All I can accomplish is Chumash Rashi. That's all I got. I'm busy. I didn't learn in yeshiva. I did learn in yeshiva. I don't have the head for Mishnayos anymore. I do an honest evaluation of myself. I'm not being lazy. I'm not goofing off. It's not because I'm playing video games and I'm not messing around with ChatGPT. No. My mind is focused. But at my best, at my normal best, at my expected best, I can't learn more than Chumash Rashi. Chumash Rashi is nothing. When you think your Chumash Rashi is nothing, Ozimas Tarasi. That's what the pasuk's saying. Amav darz al she'azim Tarasi. Why was Klal Yisrael ozid the Torah? Because they didn't appreciate the Torah they had. Because they had in their head, listen to they had in their head, someone told them, if you don't learn Bavli and Yerushalmi and Ma'aser Merkava and Mishnayos, it's nothing. Kadosh Baruch Hu is going to take you to task. And they didn't found Chazals to support it. And they didn't understand this yesod. Incredible. He goes on Barichas Rab, mamish 5 pages, 6 pages here on it. And he proves, he says, it has to be that even someone who can only learn Chumash Rashi. And again, what I said so far is basically almost his exact words, but I'll extend it a little bit, I'm being honest and saying I'm extending, but I think everything I'm saying is clearly B'chlal Kavanah, so he didn't say it. That L'fum Tzaragra, we know the way that things are judged are according to the effort someone puts in. And if someone's putting into Torah this much, that's all the Kadosh Baruch Hu is going to have a time on him. One of the big yisodas, my Rebbe Reb Nachman would not stop saying it. I hear him say it. God does not have a gun to your back. Kadosh Baruch Hu is lo ba betrunya in briosov. God doesn't have Betrunya means like tainas, but not like tainas like, oh, why do you speak? Tainas means like, some people they're just looking to be negative. Kadosh is not. God loves us. He's a father. He really wants you to come with your Chumash Rashi. He wants you to come with your one Masechli. He wants you to come with your Daf Yomi. And when you get to the Shemaim, he says, that's all you learned, Daf Yomi. All you learned was Amud Yomi. All you did was Oraisa. All you did was an hour a day. Now, he doesn't talk about amounts, but I'm going to talk about amounts also. All you did was 45 minutes a day. Now you understand. I have a relative. So he told me that his brother came in with a 98 one time, and he said to him, "Where's the other 2 points?" Excuse me, you idiot. That's what you said to your brother? Where's the other 2 points? Why'd you only get a 98? That is so defeating. Again, coaches do this in sports, and a good Rebbe that knows how to do it. I don't know how to do it, so I don't do it. There are people who know how to do it. If you know how to do it, and you really know how to do it, and you're sincerely Shem Shemayim, I'm not talking about. But most people, they do that because they have bad midas, and because they don't know what they're talking about, and they're just being negative. You have to build people up. Kadosh Baruch Hu doesn't know that. Alma ozva haaretz. Alma abd haaretz. Right? Everybody, I hope, appreciates why this pasuk is so famous, because it says Shelo birku b'Torah tchila. This is where we say Alma abd haaretz al she'ozim torasi. Right? And Chazal say, what's Azim Torah? Lo birchu b'Torah tchila. Shemi Musar is not working with that Chazal. He's just learning the Pasuk Kipshuta and this amazing, amazing insight that you're ozed the Torah when you don't appreciate it. So now I speak to, a busy crowd. Again, we have all types here, all types. And I thought to myself, this was my Einfalt. This is my insight, Siyata D'Shmaya. Before we engage in Kinyanei HaTorah, we have to appreciate how important our Torah is. Because if one of you is thinking, if I think, and you say, what do you mean? You're a Shiva. No. Look, believe me, I could do it to myself. You know how many guys have my share right now? 5, right? You know how many guys have my share last month? 3, right? So I could say, look, okay, so what? 5 guys in my share, 3 guys in my share. Rav really is, forget it. I have friends, 20, 25, 30, 35, 80. I teach at this level. You always have, if you get into the game, that sickening game of comparing yourself to others, and believe me, I play that game unsuccessfully. Baruch Hashem, I played it so many times unsuccessfully, I've learned to be a little bit successful from it. And I've thought about it many, many times in many situations in my life and put that game in front of me. But don't think, you can always look at the next guy and say he is, and you always look at that. And with Torah, I think that's a lot of our problem is we look and say, it's with Kamas and Eichos. There are people learning on so much a higher level than me. There are people learning on so much more than me, so much time than me, and then things like that. You have to know that this is what the Shevet Musar is telling us. And I don't know the rest of the Sefer, but I'm telling you, it was worth it for this word. If the Shevet Musar, he came to the world for a lot more than this, but if he came to the world for this, I think, that's maybe a little bit grandiose to say, but it's such an incredible insight that no, the Torah, they were ozed the Torah because they didn't appreciate their Chumash Rashi. That was it. If that's what your life circumstance does, it's weird. So I'll tell you where I'm coming from. Because what do we talk about Kinyanei Torah if we don't believe our Chelik and Torah is important? No one at the end of the Shavuos, the story about the neighbor of the Gra. He was a businessman, or he had a socher or something. He had a store, and one time he was listening to the Gra learning. The story goes, and the walls were thin in Vilna, and he heard the Heilige voice of the Gra and the beauty of the Gra's voice, and he left it all, and he became a parish. No one in this Vaad, yours truly included, is going to come out of the Shavuos and be a parish and start learning 50 hours more than we learn, and start learning, Pnimi Torah that we don't learn, or start learning 50 Rishonim or 10 Achronim. No, that's not the point. That's just not something that happens in our time. But we're all learning. We all learn, I assume. I hope everybody learns at whatever level. And everybody has to do a cheshbon and nefesh of what level they can learn, for sure, and what level of seriousness they can learn, for sure. But past that once you've done that and you do that, you have to know your Torah is so chashuv. From Tzar Agri, Kadosh Baruch Hu is judging you. I'll bring more proofs to this next week. You're judge. You're like the big Talmud Chacham. Your Torah is chashuv like the big Talmud Chacham is chashuv. Your Torah is chashuv in a certain way like Rabbeim Kaniesi's Torah. Let that sink in. If you don't believe that, then why should we work on Chalkei Torah? Why should we work on Kinyanei Torah? Kinyanei Torah for what? So I should be Kona what? I understand if I would be Reb Chaim Kanievsky, if I would be the Rashiva the Mir, if I were David Cohen, if I would be Rav Moshe Hirsch, if I would be Shmuel Kamenetsky, if I would be Rav Asher Arieli, no, their Torah is chashiv. But all of us can look and say, we can all turn and say that people are doing so much more than us. So our Torah is chashiv. So why are we going to work to, why in the world are you going to make work on Kinyanei Torah in order to be Kohen more Torah if Torah isn't that chashiv? And no one is going to be those other people. We're all going to be after Shavuos and after this, we're going to be ourselves. Hopefully a little bit better versions of ourselves. So that's why I thought it's so important. And again, I'm going to re-emphasize this next week and give some more of his Marmar comments. I just printed out for myself to show you those who could see a whole page like this, whole page like that, another page like this. And this is short, and I took out paragraphs and paragraphs. We're not going to do all of it. No, you have to know that your Torah is important. Your half hour is important. Your 45 minutes is important. If that's what you can learn, that is super chashuv. And on that, you need to be Kona the Torah better. And that is worth 48 kinyanim. Each person has own. Okay? What we want to talk about now, okay, that was all begetter Hagdama, but aren't an important Hagdama, no? It just struck me. Otherwise, you always have to think like where it's at. That's why people, we say so many things that are so meaningless because it doesn't mean anything because in the context of how you see yourself, it's not really important. And today we don't value ourselves. We don't value our abilities. We don't value our Torah for our purposes. And so many things, so many people are speaking, they're just talking heads. You're talking to the kid, but he doesn't appreciate Bichlal that he has any value. Someone doesn't believe he has value. So what? So what? Okay, good. So now where I wanted to start was what struck me was the miyutim, right? The Mishnah says, I didn't number one. I think we did discuss a little bit, but I have a different angle on it now that I want to talk about is miyut, right? It says miyut shena, miyut sicha, miyut derech eretz, miyut schora, miyut tanug. So that's where I want to start. Again, that's well in. It's a nice place to start. It's a unique thing. It's an interesting thing. Miyutim, little bit. Miyut shena, miyut sicha. What's begadol the message of this? Miyut shena. So I don't want to talk about miyut shena. I'll tell you, especially at the different ages that we are, it's a topic that I don't have clear, right? I'll phrase to you, and I don't want to ruin anybody's bubble, right? Of this, well, I don't want to talk about shena, sleeping, because first of all, what's the basic meat of shena? The way I remember one of the Mefarshim said that the problem of shena is that first off, again, it takes away time, right? If I only need to sleep 7 hours, and I sleep 9 hours, so it's 2 hours. I could have learned a day more, right? So that's an obvious explanation of miyut. It's also a mahalach, the mahalach of shena, of being out, of my seichel not being sharp, my seichel not being used, is against the mahalach of Torah, of being awake, being refreshed, etc. It's hard to talk about a miyut because it's hard to know how much sleep people need. Right? Some say there's sources which say it's about 8 hours, there's sources about 7 hours. There's sources which say that no, to be a Talmid Chacham, that people need it. Someone just said to me, look, all the Gedolim for sure slept minimum amounts of sleep. And I said back to him, do you know that Mordechai Gifter, who was a bona fide gadol in America, went to sleep every night at 11 o'clock? And I don't know what time he woke up, but he went to sleep at 11 p.m. I have from good sources that he went to sleep religiously at 11 p.m. That's not that late. I mean, I never get sleep before that 11 p.m. Yeah. And my son, Akiva, who's Mishamish now of Moshe Hirsch, Ligdolei Ador, Baruch Hashem, said Moshe Hirsch was Mishtama that Rav Aaron slept 7 hours a night, Rav Aaron Color. Now, Rav Aaron he died in the 60s, wasn't an old man, right? I mean, Moshe Hirsch was there when Rav Aaron was in his 50s, I think. So Rav Aaron, 50s isn't so old. right? So Aaron was sleeping 7 hours a night. I think and he said that some Rav said he couldn't believe that he got as much done as he did. He was still sleeping 7 hours a day. So, now they're definitely a Gedolim who only slept 4 hours a day. Obviously, everybody knows about the Rabbeinu Agra, slept 2 hours a day. And but like a lot of things with Gedolim, the problem with us and Gedolim is we don't know about all the Gedolim. You know about certain pictures of them, not about other pictures of them. And that really changed the picture, right? If I'm telling you that Rav Aaron Cutler was definitely a Gadol, slept 7 hours a day, and her Gifter would sleep at 11. I don't know when he got up, but the way it was said wasn't that he went to sleep at 11. I heard it from someone who heard from Chaim Volkin. It wasn't that he went to sleep at 11. If he went to sleep at 11, he woke up at 2. So what's the kunst? So it sounded like he went to sleep at 11. I'm sure he didn't sleep till 9, but he got up 6:30, 7. I don't know, 6 maybe. So it's hard to talk about Mia Shea. So that's why I don't want to talk about it. There are people that someone told me. Aaron will appreciate this. Someone was trying to explain like the difference of what would go on in the H-Base Medrash in the old days. Said, Rav Noach got up one time and said, "Who needs to sleep?" And then Noach Horluch got up the next week. I think unbeknownst, and I'm sure he wasn't coming to be so sir the Rashiva, but I think he was just saying a shmooze on his own and said, every Ben Torah needs to sleep X amount of time. So you had Rav Noach Weinberg saying, "Who needs to sleep?" I think Rav Noach in his power learning years used to put his feet in cold water, right? So he had that picture, and then others will tell you, no, that's if you do that, it's going to make you sick, and you're going to have a headache, and etc. Some people say you can't operate b'chlal. And I'm not saying ask your personal rabbi. My job here is not to uproot everything. I'm not trying to uproot anything. There's strong opinions about this, and people have strong opinions. I personally don't. I'm torn about this topic because I really don't know. I don't know if I don't know if there's something to know. I don't have a personal Kabbalah about it. I think there are people who operate well. I happen to operate a lot of times with a headache, but I think it's not so good. I think I take more Tylenol than I should, and so I don't know. Okay, but what I do want to talk about is Miyat Sicha, which is the second of the mutim. So that's why we're dealing with that. Miyat Sicha, a miyat of discussion, miyat of talking. Altar Sicha. Well, what's that about? So first off, I want to share two things. That the whole idea of miyut, what's the idea of all these miyutim? And what hashkafa does that tell us in general? Miyut sicha, miyut shena, miyut tana, miyut schara, miyut derech. What's the point? So I think the point is like this: that to be kona the Torah, and like I said, kol echad kidi isa, right? You have to pull back a little bit from the world and the regular ways of the world. The way of the world is you're out to eat and you talk until everybody has nothing else to talk about. Hopefully not Lashon Hara. The way of the Talmud Chacham, the way of the Kinyan Torah is each person on his level is I have to pull away from that a little bit. I would like to schmooze more, but it is coming on Seder time. I would like to talk to my wife, not that she particularly needs me right now or to Shas Pius or whatever. But some schmoozing, have a good time. But you know what? My Seder is weighing on me. My 45 minutes, my hour, my Chumash, my Navi, my Mishnayos, my Gemara, my Kabbalah, my Shir, whatever it is. But that weighs on me and pulls me away to be kona that. My Chazara. Because I know that if I can learn another 5 minutes, it's going to make all the difference between just going through the Daf Yomi or writing a very brief, I don't want to say summary. I don't think most people can summarize the Daf Yomi, but to write, I have Talmidim who write points of Daf Yomi. If I have another 5 minutes to learn, I can write the point of the Daf Yomi. So my shir is coming up. I'm schmoozing with a friend. I'm schmoozing with a family member. But if I can get 5 minutes early to my shir and write my notes and write down the 2 points from yesterday's Daf Yomi, it's going to make all the difference. And that's all the difference. That's all the difference. Because the Daf Yomi is there at Gavaldi. But those 2 points that you write is where you're taking your Daf Yomi learning to the whole different level. but you have to mismay it a little bit. You have to take a step back and say, I'm not going to talk about it anymore because I'm explaining it in the Mida now in the utilitarian functional way, but Sicha, right? And within Sicha for sure, game playing, reading news, etc., right? Well, well, I'm talking about Sicha in a wider way, takes time. And pulling away from that to get to the Seder is going to increase over time a lot of Torah. And not just, I'm emphasizing, not just time of Torah, but quality of Torah. Because that daf yomi that I write 2 points, I have a little notebook or digitally, I write 2 points a daf or 1 point a daf that I'm taking out, and that I could review, or that it's become so much more crystallized than everything else I learned in that hour daf yomi, that 1 point a day that I write is a different world, but it's going to take another 5 minutes, or reviewing it is going to take another 5 minutes. So I'm at that point, and of course, I'm involved with my family, involved with my friend, involved with my parents, involved with my kids, involved with whatever I'm involved with, geschmack involved, etc. But now it's a miyut. It's a sacrifice. Okay, so that's how miyut sicha is speaking to me. We're going to give a different oath next week about miyut sicha, but just in terms of the way I want to see it now is in the utilitarian way of which I think is very practical. I hope I made the point. Eric, you hear the point? You get the picture? That's the picture of miyut sicha, and it's true. It's true in life. Baruch Hashem, I love to talk to my wife. I love to talk to my kids. That's why I spend so much more time talking to, more schmoozing time. I don't schmooze so much with other people in general. But sometimes, like, okay, the kids are around Mozi Shabbos, uh, and everybody's hanging around. I don't know when anybody's going to leave. Now it's time to separate a little bit. It's time to read the Parsha. Time to read Victor Miller. It's time to read Rabbeim, or whatever you read. But that it's serious, and you're mismay. You move away from the matzav asicha for the Kinyan Torah. Okay, so I think the Kabbalah for this week is two things. One, I want everybody to think about that. I want everybody to think about the Shevet Musar, how chashiv the time that I learned, how chashiv my learning is on its own. I'm going to spend some time thinking about that. And I want to think about this idea of miyut, because every person's life is very different this way, right? Where in your life can you be b'mayit and sicha a little bit to engage in Torah? Where does this idea cross you? Where does it touch you? I can be, right? This is a situation where, again, it does, like, you have to think. I don't want to fill in the blanks for everybody, but to make it real, we want to make this real, right? Not just talk hashkafa. That's what the Vaad's all about. So for me to be real in Sabbath Miyat Sicha, you have to find, like, where's the Sicha in your life that you can be smayed in, right? It doesn't mean, if you have date night with your wife, which is very important, that you just say, okay, honey, we're not going out for 2 hours now, we're going out for an hour. That's not the point. That's maybe not a place where you want to be made, but you have to think, where can you be made? And next is to think, are you ready to make a sacrifice? Because it is a sacrifice. It's pulling away a little bit from the regular Mahalchei Chaim to be a Lomei Torah. I think, and here I think that's a lot of what the miyutim are about. It's that Chaye Torah, Kol Echad on his level, means a little less Chaye this. Yeah, I want to finish, but I just want to think that I think this is, I know for myself, it's a big nisayon. I think one of the big nisyonos of our door, of our generation, which is a generation of so much gashmias, so much possibility, so much entertainment, is that a part of our problem is that we're in this place where we think we can have everything, right? It doesn't really affect me to have tons of gashmias. It doesn't affect me to listen to every musician. It doesn't affect me to go to every restaurant, right? It doesn't affect the quality of my simcha to have it go all out. Not true. It's not true. It's a sheker. It's a sheker. It's a falseness. Now, what boundaries people make, that's not my business. But don't. It's the Avodas Avodas says that binyan hagashmis is korban aruchnius, and you see it. It is such. So Mia, to me, the whole concept of the Mia Bigadol is that no one is preaching over here uh, um, abstention. No one's preaching here staying away. But the mindset of Mia Tzicha, Mia Tanag, of Mia Derech Eretz, and Mia Tzchora, the mindset is a Mia is a Mia, and we're a generation. In Europe, everybody was mismayed, whether they liked it or not. In the Pale of Settlement, there were a few people that had some money, but generally you didn't have money, so everybody was mismayed. Well, Hafuch, you probably had to be marble a little bit to be shaykh to Torah. It's a bell curve, right? But here we have we're a generation of being marba, right? I can have all the gashrus, I can have all the music, I can have all the pleasure, I can have all the fun, I can have all the, and I'll also learn. It's not the way it works. We have to be mind. So I think that's what we have to do to think about. And to start a little bit, right? But that I think we have to engage in that. Where in my life does the topic of Miatzicha come up? Where am I ready to sacrifice a little bit of that for more of a chelik of Torah? Okay. I want to emphasize it's not all or nothing, right? You might think that means, okay, so now it means every time I'm having a conversation with, I finally have some time to talk to my friend, no, of course not. And there's situations where it's not roy or it's not healthy or anything like that. We're never preaching here being crazy, not being healthy. But the topic is a topic. So the miyat sicha is definitely a pull away. Okay? So I wish everybody atzlacha in getting into this, and I'm looking forward to getting into myself. And we show them matzliach to be mismayit the right way in order to be marba Torah. Okay, so let everybody go. It's 5:40 already. I think it was a good beginning to this man. We have a note here. No, that's Yom Ha'atzmaut. Okay, so shalom to everybody. Kol tuv. Bye, Aaron. Kol best.